If this country was a person, it would be a depressed alcoholic smoking multiple packs of cigarettes every day.
Oh my God!
If you are going to be honest with yourself and with God, it won't really take a lot to admit that we are in a lot of trouble as a country. The first 4 years of the current government's tenure was fine. A lot of Ghanaians enjoyed that first 4 years. That is why a lot of people voted for them and gave them 4 more years to make the country better. But as we are now experiencing, the last 4 years have really plummeted the country into a bad place. It's not great. So when the opportunity came for Ghanaians to choose who was going to be their new leader, they made it clear that they are not ready to move on from that toxic relationship the country has with our two main political parties. Rather than explore our options with a new force,
Let's vote them out! Let's vote them out! Let's vote them out!
Or any of the other political parties or independent candidates, we are going to stay with the party we voted out 8 years ago. And for some reason, we keep on talking ourselves into believing that one of these two parties are going to lead us into the promised land. So in today's video, we are going to be reviewing and talking about the top 5 policies which convince Ghanaians that the NDC and John Mahama will be able to turn the country around. But before we do though, please remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new here. I'm still trying to hit 1,000 subscribers before the year ends, so please subscribe if you haven't already. 5. Renegotiating the IMF bailouts. So as you may know, Ghana and the IMF are like 1 and 2. It doesn't really take much for Ghana to turn to the IMF for a handout. These are not free monies. They are not just handing out monies to poor countries. The country eventually has to pay all these monies back. But that's the thing. We as a country do not have the capacity to pay all the monies we've taken from the IMF. And because of this, they would only give us that loan if the government was going to implement some strict measures that were going to generate revenue for the country. And that is where the notorious E-Levy and betting tax come in. It's 2024 and we are still paying COVID tax. So all of these things are supposed to help the government collect monies to pay off its debt. But here's the problem with that. Ghanaians really do not feel or see where all these loans that we go for enter. We do not know what they do with this money. So what is John Mahama's solution? He says he's going to renegotiate the deal with the IMF. So instead of all these taxes and other things that are being paid, we are going to shift focus into production and growth, especially in the manufacturing industry. So hopefully by funneling the funds from the IMF into the manufacturing and other things, there will be more jobs for people to do. It will also reduce our imports, and ultimately the country will be able to grow its economy from within. Another thing he talked about was the reform of the banking and financial sectors. Over the past few years, we have seen various local banks shut down. A lot of people suffered due to these closures. GN Bank, for instance, served many rural areas where other banks would simply not go. But in 2019, it was downgraded to just a savings and loan bank. And on top of that, they had liquidity issues. Basically what this means is the bank did not have enough money to meet customer demands. And the result of this is, if you had money stored in any of these banks when they are shut down, you lose your money. And these shutdowns also left communities with no banking services. According to our president-elect, none of these shutdowns should have happened. He plans to revisit these closures, which could have been saved with better regulatory support. He is also pushing for more local ownership in the banking sector, so Ghanaians can have a bigger stake in their financial system. Now let's move on to the policy that on its own could have won them the entire election. They could have run their entire campaign on this policy and the youth would show up to vote for them in droves. Now if you're confused, what I'm talking about is abolishing the E-Levy and reviewing the betting taxes. As I mentioned earlier, these taxes were introduced as part of a way to generate funds to reduce the national deficit. They needed to show the IMF that we could generate some money to reduce our deficit. So when these people looked around, they saw that the boys were suffering. and they had started investing heavily in a new venture. So they looked closely at this venture and decided, yeah, we would like some of that money. So what happens is when you use your money to gamble on a sports match and you win, the government was going to take 10% of your earnings. And at the moment, I'm not really sure about the number, but probably 90% of the youth in this country are involved in sports betting. So that is 90% of the youth hating this government with their soul. So what does our incoming president say about this? Well, he says he's going to create a more youth-friendly approach, where he's going to stop the country from penalizing people who are only trying to survive. So he plans on reviewing and possibly removing the taxes on bet winnings and even the E-Levy. If he's able to do just this one thing, the youth would really stick with him and his party for a very long time. 2. Let's talk about the 10 billion infrastructure plan. Roads, schools, hospitals, and even electricity. These are some of the basic things every country needs to grow. But as we all know, this country has a lot of problems in those sectors. There are bad roads everywhere, and even the good roads have potholes in them. So this policy is quite simple. John Mahama is planning to change all that with a massive $10 billion infrastructure plan. Now let's move on to the final and the boldest plan of them all, the 24-hour economy. This has been very controversial, with people not understanding how this works, and I'm not even sure I fully get it myself, but I'm going to explain it to the best of my capability. You see, if we take this as a business, right, I'm the only employee in this business, so I can only do so much. But with this 24-hour economy, we are going to get 3 people doing the work of 1 person, and it's not as if these people are going to be doing it at the same time. No. So assuming this was a business and I come from 9 to 5 p.m, there will be another person who starts work at 6 or maybe 5:30 and closes 8 hours later. There will be multiple people doing the same job but not at the same time. So the idea is that at every time of the day, all companies and businesses, or maybe most of them, will be running all the time, and the result will be increased productivity, more employment, and a better economic growth. This goes beyond just a policy and really requires a shift in the mindset of the people for this to work. Going back to that YouTube analogy, it means rather than producing maybe 2 or 3 videos a week, this channel could produce maybe 9 or 10 videos a week. So those are the top 5 policies we are expecting to be implemented by the NDC and John Mahama in 2025 and beyond. Let me know what you think about them. Do you think these could really work, or in the next 4 years the country will be in a terrible place that we will also have to vote these people out and go back to the NPP? If you watched to this point, please remember to give the video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so please do also subscribe if you enjoyed. Thank you, and I'll see you another time. Bye.